Okay, it was on February the 19th, 1945. The actual landing time was 0900, which is 9 o'clock in the morning. We were up one ship and I could hear the artillery and firing and the planes dive bombing. And I thought, oh mercy, after saying that nobody could be alive on that place. Well, then finally, the bombing stopped, the gunfire stopped. And I remember there was LSTs in close to the harbor, and they had rockets on there. Must have been 500 rockets in there. And they dumped them off, and they just literally turned the beach upside down. And what they were doing was getting rid of landmines and barbed wire entanglements. But that was just before the landing took place. You know, we went over the side. I can't tell you, it wasn't right away. That some had already gone, and I think some of the landing craft were going in. But I remember going over the side and into the LCI, which we were there, which is a landing craft entry. And the Navy supplied those ships, and there was a Navy coxswain that drove that ship in. And I admire those guys because they literally were exposed to open fire. And not only when they drop one load of them, they'd go back and get another load. And there was a lot of those LCIs hit by fire from the island, and a lot of those corpsmen guys killed that operated at those coxswains. I can't remember how long it was, but it was later in the day that meant I'm sure several had gone in landings. I have no idea who it was, but I remember going into the beach. Everybody was very somber. And you know, the thing I remember about that is I was not afraid. I was not afraid. Why? I don't know. But I guess I thought, well, after seeing what happened, there'd be nothing left for us to take. But then, I'll never forget the time we went to the beach and the ramp went down. Go was the word. We dove off that. It was this high bank of black volcanic ash. It was like going up a barrel of wheat. You take one step and slide back two. I'll never forget, I cleared the top of it. They started to move upward, and small arms fire were flying. There was a mortar shell went off right close, and I dove into a shell hole. And I don't know how many others dove on top of me, but I remember one thing. The first time I was scared to death. I was afraid I was going to die, and I wasn't going to die. And I prayed a prayer, and I won't forget it this day. I said, oh Lord, if you will get me off this island alive, I'll give my life to you when I get off. I believe with all my heart today that that was the only thing that caused me to exist. Well, we moved on up the island. Things had really bogged down, and they met a resistance they didn't intend for it to do. And then, of course, right on my left was Mount Suribachi. That was where there was an observation post, and they could drop a mortar shell right in your hip pocket. But then we got up in Yamamoto number 1 airport, and they told us to dig in. And I'm glad they did, because that night was hell. They rained artillery down on us all. Oh, I was one shell blew out of this flotsam. I thought, oh God, I'm going to die. I was purpose trapped. The explosion I couldn't even hear out of my ears. Oh, but I did live. I'm sorry. It was 3 days later, that on the not 3 days, it was actually 4 days later, on the 23rd of February, that the 2nd Battalion, 27 Marines, made up Suribachi, and that was where the flag was raised that day that had become world famous as the flag raising on Suribachi. And I'll tell you, when that flag was 2 flags raised, it was the first they put up a small flag that one of the guys was carrying on him, and General Holland M. Smith, he was the general over the whole 5th Amphibious Corps. He said, I want a bigger flag up on there. And so they went back on a bigger flag. It was, I can't tell you what size, it must have been a 5x7 or 5'8". It was a big flag. And that is the one the actual picture was taken of. And A lot of people think that was posed, but it wasn't. The guys were there and they told them to put that flag, and you see in the picture, there were 6 of them struggling to get that flag up because the breeze on Suribachi was high. I did get up on the Suribachi, but I was at the foot. I saw the flag race that day. And that's a memorable experience I'll never forget. And I'll tell you, then we had Suribachi. We started moving forward on the island. And I was on there from D-Day till I left. I was there 38 days on that island. I'll tell you, I would never take $1 million for it to go back again, but I would take all the money in the world not to have had that experience. Because I saw what victory was, I saw what dying was, I saw what suffering was. God was good to us. He gave us a victory over that. If it had not been for one of that victory, that the 29s were able to continue their raids on Japan, especially later whenever they got to the point where they were ready to use the atomic bomb. And of course, Colonel Paul Tibbets flew the Enola Gay and he dropped the first bomb on Iwo Jima. And I believe that because we'd take the islands there, that there was American fighters that could escort those bombers onto Japan, because Iwo Jima was halfway between Saipan and Tokyo. So, there's just a lot of things I could tell you there, but I don't know how much you want me to go into detail. I just, some things that, well, they're memorable, but some of them not very nice. Tell you, first of all, we were pretty dirty guys, I'll tell you that, because there was no water on. There were these sulfur vent holes where the steam and sulfur come up. They were actually hot. If you go down 3 feet on the Iwo Jima, there was a lot of heat there. In fact, the Japanese in their caves, some of those caves were at 90 degrees that they were in. And I'll tell you this, I think maybe others tell you that. From the day of invasion till the day we left, which I think was something like March, I can't tell you, 26, 27, somewhere along there, they put these flares up every night. They'd burst up head and they'd float down. They were very bright, and you could see all around you. They were almost like daylight. But I remember being on at guard duty at night. I'd have go out to the outer perimeter, we'd have guard wire and maybe something up there, and you'd watch, because the Japanese had a bad habit of infiltrating at night. And if they found you in a hostel, they had a grenade. They'd jump in with a grenade line for 2 men. But I never forget that. I was so tense at night. This thing would drop and you see these shadows moving. You just was on your feet. And I'll never forget our code letter. If you saw somebody at night, do you know what the code was? The code was, you call out a city in the United States, you respond with a state, or you call out a state. In other words, if I would call out Pennsylvania, they'd say Pittsburgh. You know, it was one of our troops. And that was where we had our signal night. We wouldn't shoot any of our own men that might be moving around. But the Japanese wouldn't know that. You'd call out a name, they did respond. And, I want to tell you something else. The American Indians were a vast help in our battle. They were in the signal companies and recon companies. The signal company was where they cranked that little generator. They'd convey messages to the front lines or to the leaders. The one thing the Japanese, they fooled them on, they tried to interpret our code. You know what the Indians would do? They start talking in their own native language. There was a movie put out, I think it was called The Wind Talkers. Mm-hmm. And I did not get acquainted with it, but I was around them though. They had a different outlook. They seemed to have no fear. I don't know why. They just seemed to be very stable. And that's why they used them in recon companies and the other assets. So they were a valuable asset to our. But you talk about other things. We had a war dog platoon. I didn't know too much about it, but they could go at night. They could smell Japanese. They had bays so long they actually stuck. And
Could you yourself smell them?
that's one of the things, I'll tell you, one of the worst things is burning bodies that are, you know, we had flame-throwing tanks. I saw many Japanese had committed suicide. You know how you could tell? They didn't want to be captured. For them to be captured was a sin for them. They would not go what they believed they was having. They had to die in service of their emperor, Hirohito. And what they would do, they would take one of their grenades, they'd kick it on their helmet. That's how they, now, we had a spoon with a handle on our grenades. When you threw it, the spoon would fly in, and that would set off the timer. But they hit this on their head, and they had like, I don't know, 3 seconds. We had 3 and 5 second grenade. They hold it right here. You could go, you could see them, many of them, arm wrinkle and a hole in their chest. You know. Well, that's war. It's not a pleasant thing once a person been in it. I feel for every man that we have in the Department of Aid. God, what they went through in Vietnam is another bad one. But thank God, old glory still flies today. Anyhow, on that, whatever was the 30th day, whatever was in March, we went to the other side of the island from where we had landed. Took us out in LCIs, and we went back up a ladder, got on a ship. Our clothes were literally rotten off of us. They took them off, and they sprayed us down to get rid of all bugs and lice, whatever we might have. That was one of the things they did. And anyhow, we got boarded. I died for a shower, and all they had was saltwater showers. If you ever taken a salt water, they had both. It was like a glue set on, you'd wash it off. But it was better than what we'd had. But anyhow, we were going back to, we were first going to go to Guam, and then for some reason, they changed our direction. We went back to Hawaii, back to Camp Terrell, the big island. I think it was 19 or 20 troop ships took us over. It was 9 or 10 brought us back. But that was a lot of it going home on hospital ships. But I think there was almost 7,000 killed, about 23,000 wounded. And of course that included all divisions and all replacement regiments and all that. But I was going to tell you, we were going up, coming back to there. I think it was, I don't know, it was April the 6th or 7th. I could probably check. Word came over the PA system that FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, had died. Immediately it was a somber time because we had rated him as a great, great man, leader of our country.